Civilization does not evolve, it reboots. We have been conditioned from birth to perceive human history as a long, ascending line of progress, a slow and steady climb from the cold mud of the forest to the high-tech cathedrals of the silicon chip. We are told that we are the peak, the final version, the ultimate biological update of a planetary system that spent millions of years in aimless chaos just to produce us. But what if this line is an illusion? What if history is not a ladder, but a circle? What if humanity is not a single continuous story, but a series of experimental installations, each ending in a catastrophic deletion? What if every time we get too close to the sun, every time we start to understand the fundamental code of reality, the system triggers a planetary reset? Today, we will not entertain hollow conspiracy theories. We will not talk about visitors from the stars. Instead, we will examine the cold, structural evidence that already exists beneath our feet and inside ourselves. We will ask the one question that academia is terrified to answer. Are we merely the latest turn of a wheel that has been spinning for eternity? Proof number 1. The geologic pulse of extinction. Within the hard science of geology, there is a disturbing pattern of silence that perfectly mirrors the sudden disappearance of advanced cultures. The Earth does not experience change gradually. It experiences it in violent rhythmic pulses. Every 12,000 years, with chilling precision, the planet undergoes a massive energetic transition. We see it in the data. Sudden temperature spikes followed by instant ice ages, mass extinctions that wipe out 90% of life, and the violent shifting of magnetic poles. This cycle, particularly the event known as the Younger Dryas, aligns perfectly with the collapse of what we call prehistory. Official history tells us that humans back then were primitive survivors who simply fell victim to bad luck. But the math suggests something far more calculated. Each time these disasters strike, civilization doesn't just suffer, it is liquidated. And yet every time the smoke clears, humanity reappears, not as a newborn species, but as an amnesiac heir. We recover high-level knowledge far too quickly for a species supposedly starting from zero. We don't rediscover agriculture and masonry, we inherit them. It is as if the survivors were working from a blueprint left by those who existed before the last reboot. We are not a rising species, we are a species with recurring trauma, constantly rebuilding on the ruins of a self that we no longer recognize. Proof number 2. The technical assembly paradox. There are artifacts scattered across the globe that act as splinters in the mind of the modern engineer. These are the objects that appear far too early in the narrative. We see megalithic structures carved with a precision that defies even our modern CNC machinery. We find stone masonry with interlocking joints that assume an understanding of structural physics that shouldn't have existed for another 10,000 years. We look at the astronomical precision of sites like Göbekli Tepe, and realization dawns. Knowledge does not arise in a vacuum. It requires a long, documented lineage of trial and error. But in the archaeological record, this lineage is missing. These advanced techniques appear in the record fully formed, polished, and perfected. This is the hallmark of inheritance, not invention. You do not wake up and accidentally understand the precession of the equinoxes or how to vibrate massive granite blocks into place. These are instructions passed down from a previous cycle where those technologies reached their terminal peak. The reason we find modern precision in ancient stone is because the stone is simply the only medium durable enough to survive the periodic deletion of the human hard drive. Proof number 3. The Universal Narrative Archive. Nearly every civilization on this planet, no matter how isolated, carries the same haunting memory. They speak of a world before ours. They tell stories of a golden age where the gods walked among men and the secrets of the elements were known. They speak of a great pride, a spiritual or technological transgression that led to a cleansing by fire or water. The Sumerians, the Vedic texts of India, the Mayan codices, the Greek myths, and the oral traditions of the Aboriginal people, they were never in contact, yet they are all reading from the same data log. This is not the result of creative imagination. This is cultural forensic evidence. These myths are the corrupted files of the previous cycle's ending. They are the warnings left by the survivors for the next version of the species. They all say, it has happened before, and it was glorious, and it was terrifying, and it will happen again. We treat these as fairy tales to protect our ego, because admitting they are historical records would mean admitting that we are replaceable. We are not reading poetry, we are reading the error reports of an extinct humanity.
Proof number 4, the genetic optimization glitch. Evolution is a slow, messy, and reactionary process defined by incremental gains over millions of years. But the emergence of modern Homo sapiens violates every rule of biological pacing. Our brain size, our capacity for complex symbolic language, and our sudden obsession with abstract thinking didn't develop through the usual grind of natural selection. It was an upgrade. It was a leap so sudden and so profound that it suggests a planetary intervention. What if the Homo sapiens we see today is not the result of survival of the fittest, but an optimized version of a template that had failed in the previous cycle? What if we are version 4.0 or 10.0? Every time the planet reboots, the biological material is harvested and refined. We are an installation that was pre-packaged with the capacity for civilization, which is why we didn't spend 1,000,000 years as hunters before building cities. We did it in a geologic heartbeat. We are running on highly sophisticated firmware that was written long before we ever learned how to sharpen a flint. We are a species that was designed to build, only to be erased once the project is complete. Proof number 5, the politics of institutional silence. The greatest barrier to understanding our cyclic nature is not a lack of evidence, but a surplus of institutional inertia. Academia and mainstream science operate as defensive systems for the current cycle. To admit that advanced civilizations existed before the Ice Age and that they were destroyed by a recurring planetary pulse would require the total destruction of every textbook, every degree, and every historical hierarchy on Earth. The cost of being wrong is too high for the gatekeepers to bear. Therefore, when anomalous evidence is found, when a metallic artifact is discovered in a 1,000,000-year-old coal seam, or a sunken city is found at depths that were dry land 20,000 years ago, it is not investigated, it is quarantined. It is labeled as an enigma or an out-of-place artifact and moved to the basement. We are living in a curated reality. We are told the past was empty because if we knew it was full, we would realize that our own achievements are temporary. History is not being written to find the truth, it is being written to maintain the stability of the current cycle. We are being kept in the dark about our predecessors so that we do not panic about our own impending deletion. Proof number 6, the terminal symptom loop. The most terrifying evidence that we are in a repeating cycle is not found in the ground or the stars, but in our own behavior. We are currently repeating the terminal phase of the human script. We see the same markers that characterize the end of the previous golden ages, an exponential spike in technology that outpaces our moral development, a total loss of connection to the natural order, global political instability, and a reliance on systems that we can no longer control or understand. This is not progress, it is a fever. It is the final frantic energy of a system that is about to crash. We believe we are the first to create a global network, the first to master the atom, the first to reach for the heavens. but the shadows of the past suggest that this is merely the script we were programmed to follow. Every civilization reaches this point, and every civilization believes that this time they are the exception. We are currently staring at the wall that version 9.0 stared at before the fire came. The cycle doesn't end because we fail. It ends because we succeed too well, and the planet initiates a defensive reset to prevent us from breaking the fundamental balance of life. The history of humanity appears linear only because we are too small to see the full rotation of the wheel. We are like insects living for a single day, convinced that the sun has always been in the same spot in the sky. But once you collect the anomalies, the myths, and the geologic rhythms, the illusion of progress shatters. We are not the masters of the earth. We are just the current tenants of a house that has been built and burned 1,000 times before. The ruins we study are not from our past, they are from our ancestors' future. The countdown did not start with us, and it will not end with us. We are living in the silence between the last thunderclap and the next storm. And the most important question is no longer whether there were others before us. The question is, how much time is left in the current session before the system begins to reboot once again? We are the amnesiac giants, standing on the shoulders of ghosts, desperately trying to remember the name of the game before the lights go out. We have been here before. We will be here again. But in the next cycle, will anyone even find the scrap of metal that we once called a world?